Welcome to the Ultimate Cavalier Show. Jason Lloyd, Mike Meanites coming at you. Tonight's show brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to get in on the action, head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS to get in on the game. FanDuel, whether it's the NFL or the NBA, is America's #1 sportsbook, and you can join by clicking the link you see on your screen, FanDuel.com/UCSS. Jason Lloyd, how you doing tonight, my friend? Usually we are a Cavs and coffee show. Tonight we are a Cavs and espresso martini show. 7 p.m., latest we've gone in a while. We got a lot to talk about, too.
I didn't know we were going live. I thought we were recording this for tomorrow. So it shows how much I know and how much I pay attention.
You know what? We never actually talked about whether we were going live or recording, but no, we are very much live, and we are very much doing it now because we might as well get it out of the way now. It's a Tuesday night. The Cavs are off. The Cavs play tomorrow, so this will get a few extra hours of runtime before the Cavs get back in action against the Chicago Bulls. But, Jason, we got a few things we need to talk about, and that starts with playing without Evan Mobley. The Cavs announced over the weekend that Evan will miss the next 2 to 4 weeks with a calf strain, the scariest 2 words in the NBA right now. For context, Victor Wembanyama, who came back in the Cup semifinals, had a left calf strain. He missed 12 games. So that's a decent guesstimate of the length of Evan Mobley's absence for the Cavs. They're 15-12 right now. They lost on Sunday without Evan Mobley to the Charlotte Hornets. So, Jason, what adjustments do you think Kenny Atkinson and the Cavaliers as a team and a staff have to make to, I can't believe I'm saying this, but stay afloat for the next couple of weeks without number 4?
I mean, they've had so many injuries. And that's why it's hard to totally kill them. I mean, they're barely a 500 team. Nothing looks right. But, I mean, Strus, Merrill, Mobley, Darius has been in and out. It's been so disjointed. It's hard to get a rhythm when you're never playing with the same guys, when the rotation's constantly changing. So it's hard to come down on them too much, yet at the same time, just watch them and say, something's not right here. Like, they're still, they shouldn't be struggling, regardless of the injuries. They shouldn't be struggling with some of the teams they're struggling with. So I'm actually going to turn it on you because I said today, I thought the easy answer was Darius. We talked about on the show today. You said who has to step up. And I think Ty said Jalen Tyson, which is fine. He's a big Jalen Tyson fan.
No, he's wrong. No, it's not Tyson.
Yeah, I know you are too. But I mean, to me, it's Darius. You got $40 million point guard. It's time to start playing like it. But I'm curious if I'm missing something obvious and if you got a different answer.
No, well, it's not Jalen Tyson because you're getting as much as you can get from Jalen Tyson right now.
I agree.
Like, he's playing 10 times better than any of us anticipated. He's been arguably, outside of Donovan, their best player. It's not fair to ask for more from a guy.
Totally agree. It's unfair to ask him to give you anything else he's already given you.
Exactly. And Jalen's capable of it, and Jalen's awesome, but he's not any of the people in the bucket of they need to step their game up. Darius is a great one. DeAndre Hunter's another guy, Jason, who has to step up. I got some numbers. This is going to be kind of shocking. We'll talk a little bit more about Darius in a second in this next topic, but when he's been on the court this year versus when he's been off, the Cavs have been better with him off the court. This is from Data Baller, Jason. When Darius has been on the court this year, the Cavs have an offensive rating of 113.3. When he's been off the court, it jumps up to 120.8. The Cavs' defensive rating with Darius on the court is 118.7. It drops to 119.9. Their net rating with Darius on the court, minus 5.4. Their net rating with Darius off the court is plus 8.9. So in total, they're 7.5 points worse offensively per 100 possessions with Darius on the court. They're 6.8 points better defensively per 100 possessions with Darius off the court, which gives you an overall net rating difference of 14.3, Jason.
That can't happen.
Your max caliber point guard, who granted is coming off an injury, which does play a role in this, but your max paid point guard, who played at an all-NBA level last season, who should be a perennial all-star when healthy, you cannot be 14 points worse per 100 possessions with him on the court. It is simply unacceptable. And if it was just him, Jason, it'd be okay, right? If it was just Darius who was struggling this season, you'd be able to overcome it. Look at DeAndre Hunter. Jason, when DeAndre's on the court this year, much bigger sample size, by the way, 623 minutes with him on the court. Cavs have an offensive rating of 117.1. When he's off the court, the offense has gotten better, 120.7 offensive rating. Defensively, they acquired DeAndre Hunter because they thought he could be the wing defender they needed. With DeAndre on the court this season, their defensive rating is 118.9. With him off the court, it's 108.2. Jason, that's a 10.9 points per 100 possession difference defensively with DeAndre Hunter on and off the court. Overall, the net rating with Hunter on the court this season, minus 1.8. With Hunter on the bench, plus 12.7. Darius's net rating on-off split was 14.3. DeAndre Hunter's is 14.5, Jason. And to make it even worse, when these two are on the court together, the Cavs have been an abomination. You can see this chart here from Data Baller. Shout out to them for the numbers. When Darius and Hunter are off the court, when both are on the bench and or not playing, the Cavs have a net rating of 12.4 this year. When just Hunter's on the court and no Darius, they have a net rating of plus 4.5. You could live with that. When it's just Darius and not Hunter, small sample size, just 80 minutes, they're plus 14.8. Jason, when Garland and Hunter share the court together, 225 minutes this season, they have a net rating of negative 12.6. So you know who has to play better without Evan Mobley so they can survive? Those two guys.
Yeah. I have no explanation for why the numbers are what they are when particularly when they're out there together. But I'll tell you this. So two things. One, I was talking to somebody in the league last week who had watched the Cavs and said, it just doesn't fit. Like the roster doesn't fit. And I thought we'd been over that. And this isn't me saying this. Like I thought we had sort of moved past a lot of that. But that still is a lingering thought in the league, at least with one person I talked to in the league, is like roster doesn't fit together. But more alarming in terms of Hunter, the Cavs won the press conference with the Hunter trade last year, right? Like we all, hand up, we all praise them. What a great move. This is exactly what they need. It's a long wing defender, athletic. He can play the 4. He can play the 3. He can shoot it. And they managed to get out of the tax and kick that clock down the road. Like it looked like a great trade in the moment. And I still think it was a good trade, but we may look back on this as last year was their best opportunity to win a championship because and this is why it's so crucial that Hunter plays better is because that's the move that put them into the second apron. That's the move that put them into this vice that they're in. So he has got to play well because he is what's got them into all of these restraints. And if he's not playing well and he's the reason why you are where you are financially, that's a bad combination. So there's a lot riding. It's more than just you got to get DeAndre Hunter going. You got to get DeAndre Hunter going because that's the reason why you are where you are in the tax bracket that you're in.
So in theory, DeAndre Hunter should be a great defender. Jason, these are the blind resume things that would go on DeAndre Hunter when you're doing the creative profile of a player that would make you believe he's a really good defender. Well, he won ACC Defender of the Year when he was at Virginia. He comes from a Tony Bennett coach college team.
He had that reputation coming out. Yeah.
He is 6'8". He is a 7'3" wingspan. He's pretty darn athletic, both laterally and vertically. That by itself should make you a pretty good defender. Since he's come to Cleveland, Jason, this was partially last year too, but even more exaggerated this year, he's been arguably their worst defender. Based off the numbers, based off the eye test, based off anything you want to look at, the on-offs, the individual, the shooting percentage against, I think, frankly, the toll his body has taken over the last couple of years, he's had a couple of knee injuries that have slowed him down, has taken him out of the athletic profile to be an actual wing stopper. It doesn't mean it can't change. I do believe he has the defensive DNA to get back to being at least a serviceable level defender. But through this season, he's been a turnstile, Jason. The Cavs as a whole have been trying to get more aggressive on the perimeter, create more turnovers to get more offensive possessions, which has put guys in situations where they have to stay in front of the ball handler. And Hunter, more often than not, has been unable to do that. So if you're going to be a turnstile defensively, you got to make up for it offensively, right? Well, DeAndre this season, Jason, is shooting just 43% from the floor on 12 field goals per game. He's shooting just 30% from beyond the arc. He's averaging 6.3 three-point attempts. He's making just 1.9 of them. He's not a great rebounder. He's not a great passer. The theoretic fit of DeAndre Hunter with this lineup makes a lot of sense. But the theoretic version of DeAndre Hunter is not the DeAndre Hunter Kenny Atkinson and company are currently getting this season. And I think that's why part of this has been so ugly. And if DeAndre Hunter is not going to contribute the offensive stuff that you need him to contribute, not provide the spacing, the individual creation, the drive, kick, pass, attack rotations, then he has to be a better defensive player. And the same goes for Darius Garland, Jason. We know Darius has his defensive liabilities. He'll never be an elite defender. I actually think he's been serviceable-ish at times throughout the season. But for Darius to be part of a championship rotation, he's got to be the elite offensive player we know he can be. And once again this season, just like almost everybody on the Cavs, and once again Darius coming off the toe injury, much smaller sample size, he's shooting 36% from the floor and 28.2% from three. Between Hunter and DG, they're averaging 12.8 3-point attempts per game, and they're making less than 4. Like, Jason, that's not going to cut it when you're a team that relies so heavily on the offensive end of the court to make up for those defensive liabilities, and you're not shooting the ball well enough to make up for it. So to survive without Mobley, and I didn't want to turn this into a let's crap on DJ and Hunter segment, to survive without Mobley, Donovan's going to have to take a little more of an offensive load, which once again is unfair to ask because he's been incredible.
Already.
Jared Allen's going to have to step up and play like the $20 or $30 million per year center the Cavs have paid him to be. It's $20 million this year, but they gave him that extension that kicks in next year. And I think DJ and Hunter have to play just to a serviceable level. And right now, the two have been below that Mendoza line, for lack of a better word, Jason. And when you have your second or third best player out due to injury, you can't ask for much more from Donovan. Who has to pick it up? It's the other guys you're paying real money to. The other guys that make up the majority of this most expensive roster in basketball that have real NBA experience, that have real NBA expectations. Because if they continue to play like they are, Cavs are going to be around a 500 team until the end of the season. And that's not good enough.
Yeah. So one more thought on the Hunter, going back to the Hunter trade. You know, when they made the deal, I know I said on UCSS, I think the prevailing thought was, wow, I can't believe that's all they had to give up. They didn't have to give up Jalen Tyson. They didn't have to give up the 31 pick. That's all they had to give up was, what was it? Yang, Levert.
And the pick swaps, second-round pick swaps.
Well, it was second-round picks and the swaps. That's what I was just looking up. I wasn't ignoring you, but I want to specifically look up the swaps. I knew it was 26. I didn't know if there was another one, and there was. It was the 28 swap as well. Well, again, the Cavs won the press conference on that, but why did Atlanta let him go for that? Well, it's kind of feeling like a money dump from Atlanta's standpoint on this to get off the $22 million that he's making, to give them a little bit more flexibility. That 28 swap could be interesting. Let's wait and see how the next couple of years play out, but that could be a compelling swap for the Hawks down the road. I'm not so sure about the 26 one, but the 28 one.
They have the same exact record right now, so the swap wouldn't really matter, ironically.
Yeah, but the 28 one could get pretty interesting. Yeah. So we'll see. Like, that's one of those where we stapled that as a Cavs win and a great trade in the moment. And, you know, I still think that he's filling a need, allegedly, theoretically, but that might be one to worth come back and circle in a couple years. But also, you know, if Darius can get right and start shooting it the way that we know that he can, like those numbers that you put up earlier are that can't continue. And I'm gonna just defer to that as small sample size. He's playing his way back. I mean, defensively, it's never going to be good.
He did play his best game against Charlotte. Offensively, he played a really good game against Charlotte on Sunday.
Offensively, he has to give them what they're accustomed to getting out of him, or else he's unplayable. Again, like, I think his reputation around the league defensively is way worse than people think. Like, everyone says, well, yeah, but, you know, other point guards don't really guard you. I'm telling you, his reputation around the league is atrocious defensively. He has got to make up for it on the offensive end. He has got to give them playmaking, three-point shooting, all those things that we've come accustomed to, or it's really going to be a problem down the road. And maybe when all these guys come back and there's healthy and guys settle into their roles, and it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, and you get into a rhythm, you get into a normal rotation, guys know when they're coming in and out, they know who they're going to be playing with, they find combinations that work. Maybe this will start to look a little bit more like it did last year, but right now it's incredibly disjointed. And it just looks like there's something wrong here.
Last point on this, we'll move on. But Jared Allen's also on this list. Allen's had kind of an up and down season. He's just coming back from that finger injury. But he's a guy that's been benched in the fourth quarter, Jason. And we've talked in the past about the Cavs' best closing lineups. I was under the impression that Mobley at the 5 plus shooting around him was probably the best closing lineup for the Cavs when these guys are making shots. And I understand minutes restrictions and him coming back from injury was a factor in this, but Kenny opted to close the game against Charlotte, including the overtime period with Dean Wade at the 5. And It's one thing if Evan Mobley is the 5 and you're not playing Allen because you have DeAndre Hunter at the 4. Jared Allen is way too good of a basketball player to not be in the game if, with all due respect to Dean Wade, if Dean Wade's the other option. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like you're paying, and the Cavs have made not just 1 but 2 commitments, long-term deals with Jared Allen. They have to believe in him enough to think he can be some sort of asset down the stretch in the fourth quarter. And with Mobley out, against some of these other teams, like once Jared's back into the full flow and not still recovering from the finger injury and still kind of working his way back into game shape, they got to close with Allen, Jason. Like if they don't trust him enough as to where Dean Wade or Thomas Bryant or someone else is the small ball 5 to close games, that tells me everything I need to know. And I think Jared's a much better player than that. So Jared Allen's another guy who they're going to have to count on a bit now with Mobley out to kind of right the ship here.
This is obviously intentional, and it almost feels like Kenny is trying to send Jared a message in terms of physicality, in terms of all of these things that we've been talking about that they need out of him for years, and they haven't gotten it yet. And this feels like, tell me if I'm wrong, you're the one who played at a much higher level than I ever did. It feels like he's trying to send a message to Jared.
Let's see how he responds. It's one thing to send a message. Sometimes messages go over players' heads. Sometimes they hear it loud and clear. We'll see what happens over the next couple of games here with Jared Allen. All right, Jason, before we get to our next topic, we got to remind everyone that A Home for the Holidays is a proud sponsor of the Ultimate Cavaliers Show. Give big this year with A Home for the Holidays raffle. You have a chance to win a beautiful new custom home or a cash prize this holiday season and help make wishes come true for Make-A-Wish kids with critical illnesses. Raffle proceeds benefit Make-A-Wish OKI, which has granted over 22,000 wishes to children facing critical illnesses across Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana since 1983. This year's Outstate custom-built Petros homes with a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, and 3-car garage. The one lucky winner will be announced on December 24th, so get your $100 ticket now. Just visit ahomefortheholidays.org to buy your tickets. That is ahomefortheholidays.org now. All right, Jason, earlier today, I saw a report from Jake Weinbach, and then it was aggregated by all the NBA Central, all the Legion Hoops, any aggregation site you want to say. This report was put out there that the Timberwolves, the Magic, and the Wizards would be considered potential candidates to pursue Darius Garland from Cleveland if the Cavs engage in trade discussions around the 2-time All-Star. Garland should receive strong interest from teams in need of elite guard duties. Key word there, and I want to emphasize key word there, if the Cavs engage in trade discussions, meaning they may not have happened yet, but just putting it out there that the Timberwolves, Magic, and Wizards would be 3 to consider if the Cavs decided to move on from Darius Garland. Jason, last week we did a segment similar to this, and we both agreed it makes absolutely no sense for the Cavs to even entertain offers for Darius Garland right now. But with this latest rumor swirling, have you changed your stance in the last week, or do you still believe these are premature, silly, and unnecessary?
I don't mean this to sound as insensitive as it's going to come off, but I've never heard of Jake Weinbach in my life. Am I missing? I mean, obviously I'm not covering the league on a daily basis anymore.
He's not a huge name, but he has been right on a couple of things in the past.
Okay.
So take it for what it's worth. He is certainly not.
Okay. Well, then maybe he's a up and comer, but he's certainly not one of the guys I would go to if I'm looking for information on the NBA. But maybe I'm behind on the times because I don't cover the league every day anymore as closely, obviously, as I once did. This doesn't make any sense. This sounds like the Cavs putting it out of trying to drum up interest. What team is going to trade for a $40 million point guard who on a bad toe who's not playing well? What sense does that? That just does. It's nonsensical. Darius, I did a quick search before we started just to see. He's still got a top 10 point guard contract in the NBA. He's got about $100 million left on his deal. and he's one of the top 10 highest paid point guards. And that's if you count Devin Booker, who wasn't really a point guard when he signed that deal. It's just counting Dame, who's not even playing. But just money-wise, he's top 10. Is Darius Garland a top 10 point guard in the NBA right now to you? Is he playing like one? He's not to me.
Currently playing like one? No. When he's healthy, do I think he's a top 10 point guard? Yes, but he's not healthy right now in my mind. He's still working back from the toe. And Jason, real quick, after the Charlotte game, obviously they lost. Obviously vibes in the locker room post-game are down. They just lost the game in overtime to a team they had no business losing to. They didn't score in overtime. Darius did have his best offensive game. And I forget who asked him in the scrum post-game about his toe. And he just basically said, man, I'm done talking about my toe.
That's exactly what he should do.
I'm done. He said, I'm done. I've answered everything I could. I'm done talking about it.
Yep.
There were a few instances in the game, and I was there. I got there in the middle of the third quarter because I was covering the Browns first. There's still a few instances every game where it looks like he takes a wrong step, pushes off weird, winces. I just think that's the reality for the time being on Darius. Yeah. I don't think he's going to be 100% in the immediate future. Maybe not for the entire season. Maybe not for his entire career again. That's just based off my visual interpretation of how he's moving. He's playing with a steel plate in his shoe. It can't be easy. I'm not saying that's an excuse, but to your point, he's not playing like a top 10 point guard right now. We showed you the numbers. The Cavs are better with him on the bench than they have been with him on the court, and the Cavs have stunk this year. It's like, what does that say?
And if you're another team and you want to look for a buy low opportunity, okay, fine. If you're the Cavs, why would you do that?
Bingo. Thank you.
And you and I were talking about this after UCSS today when I was driving home. How do you show me how are you getting better? How are you trading Darius and making your team better right now? I just don't know where you're doing that, how you're doing that. So if you show me a trade that works with their money situation and they get better from it, okay, we'll have that discussion if another team actually wants to do that. I just don't know where why would the Cavs and Magic ever trade with each other? If anything, these are two teams competing in the East. Now, as I told you on the phone earlier, never say never, because the Cavs traded Kyrie to Boston once upon a time when they were their top competitor in the East. So I don't put anything past. I've learned too many hard lessons about speaking in absolutes and definitives, but I have a hard time seeing a world where the Cavs and Orlando get together on a deal for Darius Garland, just because of logic and common sense. So I don't see it. I don't see a move. I think I've written it since they were eliminated last year by the Pacers. This is who they are. The die was cast when they made the Hunter trade. Making moves is going to be incredibly difficult for them this point forward right now through all of this season. I just don't see it. And again, maybe I underestimated Kobe in 2018 when I thought they were who they were, and he reworked that entire roster in about a day and a half at the trade deadline and gutted that team and got out some guys that needed to get out. So I'm not going to speak in absolutes this time, but I just right now, December, what is it, 18th, 16th, whatever the day is, I don't see it.
Jason, I got to text my brother back 1 sec. Keep talking.
Shout
out Corey Crawford.
Corey? Jason Corey?
Corey's in the chat right now. So shout out to.
I thought you were texting Corey right now.
My brother just called me 3 times, so I just told him unless it's a dire situation, I'll call you back after the show. And then Corey said, "Give me a shout out." So all right, I'm back. All right, to the Darius thing. The Cavs are all in this year. Like the Cavs have decisions they have to make upcoming this summer and in the year after that, because they're up against the second apron. They don't want to be a double second apron team in back-to-back years. All the financial implications, which means there is no way the Cavs are going to trade Darius Garland for future assets. There's just no way.
No.
The team has
their
put
window is right now
on the table to win this year. So to find a deal that makes sense for the Cavaliers, to trade Darius Garland, you have to get back pieces that are ready to help you win now. The issue is the Cavs are a second apron team. So making any kind of deal is incredibly difficult. You also have to find a team that be willing to take on Darius' salary, which once again, as Jason mentioned, has about $100 million left. He makes $39 million and change this year, $42 million and change next year, $45 million in 2027, 2028 before he becomes a free agent. So you have to find a team that can take on that money, right, Jason? They still have to be able to take on that without them going into all the apron constructions, while giving the Cavaliers assets back without draining whatever team they have. And I look at a team like the Nets, for example, right? Like just hypothetically speaking, the Nets have cap space. Nets have picks. Nets have young players. What do the Nets have that the Cavs would want right now?
Nothing.
They don't want a first and some, like, they need guys that can help them win now. The Wizards, same thing. The Jazz, like, I just look around the league and yeah, maybe Orlando's the one team, Jason, or the Timberwolves in the West, the two teams around the league that I could kind of see having like the right roster, they're in the right spot and their trajectory, the need of a point guard. But then I'm not sure what they're giving the Cavs back that actually makes Cleveland better. I cannot find at the moment any kind of deal that makes sense for both sides. And to the big picture point, if I'm Cleveland, I'm not selling low on Darius Garland.
No.
Darius, when healthy, is an all-star, borderline all-NBA caliber player. He is, in my opinion, and I know people have got mad at me when I say this before, the most important part of this Cavaliers offense when it's all right. He is the catalyst of getting into the paint and having the Cavs offense look like the historic offense we saw last year. Look at the beginning of this year before we played, Jason. How many times did we say, I understand they're trying to get Mobley more involved. This doesn't even remotely resemble the team last year. Why?
Right.
Well, because they lost Ty Drummond, they lost Darius Garland, two of the guys on the roster last year that were the most consistent at getting into the paint, creating those rotations that Kenny Atkinson wants to attack, and then getting the offense to look like what it is. He's not their best player. I'm not going to pretend he's their best player, but he might be their most important, integral offensive cog to make the offense run how Kenny wants to run it. There's going to be trade rumors. It happens for every team. It happens for every player. It's part of what makes the NBA so fun to cover. But, Jason, I can't find for even one iota a reason the Cavs would entertain offers right now for Darius at his current state. If you're going to sell on Darius, sell as high as you possibly can when he gets back, when he's healthy, when he's playing like an all-star. But to sell on a guy on that contract with that potential, with that importance to this team, when he's at his lowest value, it makes no sense.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with any of that. And when you talk about like I was thinking about Brooklyn, I kind of laugh. Like, why would Brooklyn cash in all those ones on a 25-year-old point guard when that's not really where the league is trending, and where he's got no one to help him? Like, you cash in your ones after you already build up the roster, not now. And that was just one team that came to mind that you mentioned, but like there is no great fit right now.
And with all due respect to Darius, and this is something you have to take into consideration when you're looking at these deals, the Cavs are going to need some real assets back if they're going to trade Darius. What team is going to trade for a undersized, injury-prone, defensive liability at the point guard position, unless they believed he was the absolute last missing piece of a championship run? And then for a team like that, and maybe it is in Minnesota, do they have the assets to get back that make it make sense? I just don't see it right now. I think Minnesota is the most likely of all the partners, Jason, but I don't see a deal that works that Minnesota would even consider. And I don't think it makes sense for the Cavs to pull the trigger right now while Darius is at his lowest point. Before we get to our last topic, Jason, a quick word from Rocket Money. Have you ever felt like your money just disappears each month? It happens fast. A few subscriptions here, an impulse buy there, and suddenly the numbers in your bank account don't match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances, because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. Take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That is rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, Jason, last thing before we wrap up here on a Cavs and Espresso Martini edition of the Ultimate Cavaliers Show. I kind of like that. We're just going to change the drink.
It's not really happy hour. We're kind of after happy hour.
Yeah, it's like a nighttime drink. I don't know what you drink past 8 p.m., but a little bourbon, a little whiskey, water, whatever. The Cavs have a pretty weak schedule in the next couple of games. They play the Bulls tomorrow night in Chicago. Then they're back home on Friday against the Bulls. They host the New Orleans Pelicans. There's another game in there against a team that's subpar before they take on the Knicks on Christmas Day. Jason, I know we talked about it last time we spoke. We said 5-1 over this stretch is what we wanted to see from the Cavs to feel good about them heading into that Christmas Day matchup against the Knicks. They're 1-1 so far. Are you changing your 5-1 prediction, or are you kind of sticking? They play the Hornets again, by the way, on Monday. Or are you sticking with that 5 wins in 6 games before we get to New York.
I mean, I didn't think they were going to drop one of these first 2 when I said take 5 of the next 6. I'm sticking with it because there's no reason to come off of it. They're still the better team in all of these games, and it's not really close. So the fact that they lost to Charlotte and couldn't even score in overtime, that's not my problem. Like, they're a better team than that, and it's time to show it. So, no, I'm sticking with it. They better – so what? They got 4 left. They better win them all. And I don't see any reason why not. Like, you should take a home against Chicago. You should beat Charlotte. You should beat New Orleans.
Can I give you a crazy stat real quick?
Yeah.
Shout out to my guy, Tony Pesta. He just texted me this. There are 5 teams in the NBA that are top 10 in both offense and defense right now.
Okay.
You ready for these? OKC.
Okay. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Houston.
Yeah.
Very good. Detroit, number 1 seed in the East.
Yep.
Minnesota, who's been good. And the Cavs.
That doesn't make any sense.
Right? Makes absolutely no sense. In wins this season, Jason, this gets even weirder. In wins this year, the 15 wins, the Cavs are 10th in offense, 19th in defense. In losses, they're 18th in offense, 5th in defense. None of it makes sense. This Cavaliers season has been as weird of a basketball anomaly as I can remember.
Yeah.
The numbers and the eye test could not be further apart. We're going to do a topic on UCSS tomorrow, Jason, about the offensive line against Chicago. The eye test watching it live, it's like, oh, this offensive line's abysmal. The numbers.
I didn't know. I told you today.
I know. I thought watching it was bad. The numbers say the offensive line blocked like one of the 5 best units in football. I cannot wait to see what Jay and Bull go head to head on this one before the Josh Allen debate.
I wouldn't go that far and say top, but watching it live, I felt like the protection's he just got to get the ball. But this is not. I mean, my God,
I'm just saying it's one of those things that the eye test and the numbers didn't match up for me.
Yeah, yeah.
This is another thing in a much bigger context because it's not one game; it's been 27 games now, where the eye test and the metrics don't necessarily match up. And Zach Lowe said something on his podcast today that I thought was pretty fast. This is before Zach Lowe, before Sunday's game. So this is before the Charlotte game. The Cavs were 22nd in three-point efficiency offensively and 10th, or I guess 20th, 10th worst in how well teams are shooting from 3 against them. So teams are shooting above average against them. The Cavs are shooting below average themselves. He said that happens. Teams go through weird stretches like that. If you just go back to the variance here, Cavs probably have 3 more wins than they have right now. And how different would 18-9 feel than 15-12?
Significant.
If you just go the pure 3-point variance and the law of averages. This Cavs team has won games it should have lost. This Cavs team has lost games it should have won. This Cavs team is significantly more talented and significantly better than their 15-12 record. I don't have an exact X and O analytical answer, Jason, as to why this team has underperformed this season. I think a lot of it comes down to simply playing harder and putting in a better effort on the defensive end of the court, particularly in the transition. And Kenny Atkinson has said that time and time and time again. So what my eyes say at least matches up with what Kenny's seeing. But this team is not nearly as bad as they've been. And the reason we are so frustrated with them is because we had such high expectations. And I'm not selling all my stock on the Cavs. I still think they have a chance to end up with a top seed in the East. It wouldn't shock me if they caught Detroit. I'm not sold on. They beat Boston last night in a really entertaining game, but I'm not sold on Detroit. I still think at the end of the day, I like the Cavs' chances to come out of the East better, but they have to start showing me something to validate these thoughts, Jason. I've seen nothing yet to validate it other than this untapped potential that I know is in there and what the numbers say they could be, but nothing on the court has actually translated to that when it comes to actual basketball. They're not an Excel spreadsheet. They're a basketball team. And right now they're crushing it in Excel, and they are falling short of expectations between the lines.
With the Evan thing, the reality is, because we've been saying, give them to January, like a month from now. Give them till a month from now. And if they're still playing like this, then it's time to sound the alarm. Well, now do we have to reset that clock? Because Evan's not going to be back in a month, I don't think. Maybe he is. Maybe it's a month. But I mean, now you're coming up against the All-Star break in a month. We're only a week or two out from a couple weeks out from that. I guess a little bit longer than that. What's the All-Star break? Right around Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah, February.
So about another month. But at some point, we have to stop kicking the can down the road and saying, okay, they are who they are. And I think you and I are hesitant to do that because we don't want to look foolish in April and May. But most, I don't want to keep doing the same show. We're just doing the same show over and over and over.
We've done it 3 weeks in a row now. Basically.
Yeah, we're just doing the same show of, man, they're hurt. They look like crap. They kind of suck right now. What's the matter with this guy? And I get the same show. But we kind of knew that going into the season when they lost to Indiana the way they did. I think everybody kind of looked around and said, oh my God, next year's going to be, what are we going to talk about and write about well, here we are, where we're doing the same shows and we're writing the same stories and having the same conversations over and over and over, because it just sort of feels like we're living Groundhog Day. And until these guys get healthy and put it all out there and see what it looks like. But at the same time, when you have this many injuries, sometimes that's who you are. And you've just got guys who are going to have to fight injuries. And that's sort of part of the fabric and DNA. And you hope that's not the case, because you just want one run where they're healthy. Like, just give me one shot where they're healthy, April, May, and June. And not even like 100%, because everybody's going to be banged up, but at least like give them their guys. Can they get one run at this with their top guys? And I don't know if that's going to happen or not at the rate we're going here.
You said it best. This is the third week in a row where we've basically talked about something with Evan Mobley, something with Darius Garland, and something about the Cavs having to play better. And I don't really know. We talked about Donovan being Superman at times, and he's been incredible this season. We've gave Jalen Tyson his due flowers, and he's been awesome. Craig Porter Jr. has been everything you could have asked for from Craig. Lonzo's been a disappointment. DeAndre has not played up to expectations. Darius coming back from injury has not looked like Darius yet. Jarrett hasn't been all that good this season. The Cavs just aren't playing the brand of basketball I think the Cavs have become accustomed to. And this will be my last point, Jason, we could wrap up here. We said all summer that the regular season is kind of irrelevant for this team. We're going to judge them on April. So I'm not going to kill them now when we're in December for lackluster play. They understand, just like I understand, just like Kenny understands, there is value to the regular season. You build championship habits during the regular season. The Cavs have not yet earned the right to just flip the switch like the LeBron-led Cavs did in 16, 17, 18. However, it's an 82-game regular season. They're 27 games into it. There's still about 50 games to go before the playoffs. And ultimately, what this team does in April is how we're going to judge them. They could look lackluster until March, Jason. And in March, get healthy, go on a run, win 2 or 3 playoff series, and we'll forget all about this, which is why I think you have to put it all into context. This team is not playing good basketball right now. I cannot try and sugarcoat that. But I also am not stupid enough to think that the basketball team they are today is necessarily the basketball team they're going to be come playoff time. If it is, we're going to have some very intense discussions. But until we know they are or aren't, I ain't going to kill them.
There will be changes if this is how they go out. There will be changes.
All right, Jason, that is going to wrap it up for the Ultimate Cavs Show. Any final thoughts?
No, I think that next week let's do a different show.
Hopefully I'm on vacation next week, so there will be no show next week. We'll come back the week after Christmas. So we have 2 weeks to get some changes, then we will be back. For Jason Lloyd, I'm Mikey McNuggets. The Cavs are back in action. And for the love of God, Cleveland, beat the piss out of Chicago. Give us something to talk about in a positive light for you guys come Thursday morning. But we'll be rooting for you tonight. If you want to watch some good hoops, check out Wemby versus the Knicks Cup Championship. Doesn't count in the standings. However, Victor Wembanyama is playing, and that means it is worth your time and attention. Until next time, Jason Lloyd, I'm McNuggets. Go Cavs. Peace.